everybody, it's Ian the Off-Kilter Crafter. I hope you're having a great day today. It is time for month 3 of Carnival, the puzzle mystery quilt from Cotton Cuts. So excited to be putting this one together, but I'm wondering, we're getting closer and closer to spooky season, so does month number 4 mean we're visiting the haunted carnival? I don't know. We'll find out next month though. Let's go ahead and get started with clue number 3 of Carnival. All right, I have my instructions for clue number 3 of Carnival in the large size. I have, of course, my clue packet number 3, and then I have my petting zoo color guide. So I'm going to go ahead and open up packet 3. I'm going to set that up there. No, I'm going to set that there because I want y'all to see it just in case you need it. But I'm going to go ahead and open this up and we'll start seeing what's inside clue packet 3. Okay, first off, we have 2 small rectangles of F fabric. We also have 2 small rectangles of A fabric. We have 4 small triangles of F fabric. We have 12 small triangles of E fabric. We have 12 small triangles of D fabric. We have 14 small triangles of C fabric. We have 18 small triangles of B fabric. And we also have 4 small triangles of A fabric. We have 6 large, medium sized squares of F fabric. We have 2 large rectangles of A fabric. And last but not least, I ran out of room. We have 4 large triangles of A fabric. So we've got a lot in this one. I'm going to go ahead and put everything on the table next to me and we'll get started with step number 1. All right, we're going to go ahead and start off with step number 1. It says to join a small triangle of D, which is this one right here, to a small triangle of E, and we're going to make 4 of those. And then for 1.2, it says we're going to join a small triangle of C to a small triangle of E, and we're going to make 4 of those. So I'm going to go ahead and put both of those together. So we have our 1.1 step and our 1.2. I'm going to go ahead and sew all that, and I'll come back when it's time to press it out. Okay, I've sewn all 4 of those together. In both cases, we're pressing towards the E fabric, so press towards your E fabric on both those half square triangle sets, and there you go. All right, so there's 1.1 and 1.2. Let's move on to step 2. For step number 2, it says to join a step 1.2 to the right of a step 1.1, and we're going to make 4 of these. So all those half square triangles that we just sewed together, we're going to put them together like this. Remember, our E fabric will not be touching. It is formed in this way. So we have our D fabric touching our E fabric, and it'll look like this. I'm going to go ahead and sew these together, and I'll come back when it's time to press it out. Okay, I've finished step 2. I've made 4 of them, and I've pressed them towards my ED half square triangle. Let's move on to step number 3. Step number 3 is going to be easy because we're just going to rotate step 2 and join to the bottom of another step 2 unit. We're going to make 2 of these. So just like this, we're creating this kind of diamond pinwheel thing. I don't know what to call this. I'm sure there's an official name for it. But anyways, that's what we're creating. We're going to be sewing this twice. I'm going to go ahead and do that, and I'll come back when it's time to press it out. All right, I've sewn these together, and now I am pressing, and it says to press it towards the top. Although, because this block is exactly the same when you turn it 180, the top doesn't really matter as long as you're not pressing it without having the E in the top left corner, because if you turn it 180, it's the same thing. So it doesn't really matter which of the ways you press the seam that you just did, but press it towards the top on one of them, or actually on both of them, and there we go. So we're going to move on to step number 4. Okay, moving on to step number 4, it says to sew a small B triangle to the left of an F square. So we're going to put these 2 together just like this. We're going to press that, and then we're going to come back and we're going to add a second B triangle to the top to make a kind of large half square triangle. And we're going to be making 4 of these in total. So I'm going to go ahead and put this all together. I'm not going to stop in between pressing my first triangle and then my second one. I'm going to go ahead and sew all these together, and I'll come back when I'm pressing out the final triangles. Okay, I've sewn all 4 of these together. We are pressing in towards our F square, which is a little difficult on this, to be honest. Most of the time when we're doing this kind of shape, we're pressing outwards from our square, but for whatever reason on this one, we are going inwards. So I have done that, and now I have all 4 of those, and we're going to move on to step number 5. Okay, moving on to step 5, it says to join a large A triangle to the top left of a step 4. We're going to make 4 of these in total, so it's going to make this shape right here, and I'll come back when it's time to press this out. Okay, I have sewn all 4 of those together. I'm now pressing towards the triangle that has the F fabric in it, which kind of feels a little weird because it's very much against the way I would feel like it should be pressed, but you know, cotton cuts, they know their thing, and I always trust that there's a reason for every which way we are having to press our fabric. But there we go, all 4 of those. All right, let's go ahead and move on to step number 6. Okay, moving on to step number 6, it says to join a step 3 unit to the top of a step 5 unit. So we're going to put our step 3 unit on top of our step 5 unit, and we're going to make 2 of these. So don't freak out when you don't have 4 of them. We're only going to make 2 of these that look like this. So I'm going to go ahead and sew this together, and I'll come back when it's time to press it out. Okay, I've sewn those together, and it's the instructions are telling us, I should say, that we are pressing towards our lower half, so the larger A triangle, we're going to be pressing towards that, and I kind of buggered this up a little bit, but that's all right. It should still work just fine. So there we go. All right, so we have completed step 6, and it also says, I notice here that the instructions say that the remaining 2 step number 5 units will be used in step 9. So we're setting those aside, we're setting these aside, we're going to move on to step 7. All right, moving on to step number 7.1, it says to sew a small triangle of C to a small triangle of B. We're going to make 4 of those in total. Then it says for 7.2, we're going to sew a small triangle of E to a small triangle of C, and we're going to make 2. So we're making 4 of step 7.1. We're making 2 of step 7.2. I'm going to go ahead and sew that up, and I'll come back after I've pressed these out. Okay, I finished step 7.1 and 7.2. Let's move on to step 8. Okay, moving on to step 8.1, it says to take 2 of 7.1 and join a square of F to the top. So we're going to make 2 that look like this when they're all done. We have our B fabric touching our F fabric. Then for 8.2, it says that we are going to join another 2 step 7.1 units to the top of a 7.2 unit to make, and we're going to make 2 of them. So this is what it's going to look like. We have B, C, C, E. When it's all done, we're going to make it look like this. And then for 8.3, it says to join steps 8.1 and 8.2, and we're going to make 2 of them all together. So it's all going to go together like this when it's all said and done. Remember, your C fabric is going to form this diagonal if you've done it correctly. So this is what it's going to look like when it's all done. And remember, we're making 2 of these. I'm going to go ahead and do that, and I'll come back when I'm pressing out the final 8.3. Okay, I've sewn those together, and now I'm pressing towards the side that does not have the F square in it, so away from the F square. It is really bulky in some places, so you might need a little help getting it there, but there we go. All right, so I have sewn both of those together. Let's move on to step number 9. Okay, moving on to step number 9, it says to join a step 5 unit to the top of a step 8.3 unit, and we're going to make 2 of these. So remember, we had 2 left over step number 5. We're going to go ahead and add that onto our step 8.3, and we're going to put these together just like this. We're going to make 2 of these, and I'll come back when it's time to press this out. Okay, I've sewn these together, and the instructions actually have arrows pointing in 2 different directions for how to press it. So I'm not exactly sure. I guess that means you can press it in either direction. I don't know, to be honest. So I'm going to press it. When I looked at the other one that we worked on, it was going down. So for this one, I'm going to press up. So that way they nest whenever we're putting these together in step number 10. I did peek ahead and saw on step number 10 that we're going to be combining this one with step number 6. So let's go ahead and do that now. Okay, for step number 10, it says to join a step 9 to the right of a step 6. Remember, on step 9, I did press it upwards, I think. I pressed up. Yeah, this one seam goes down, this seam goes up, so that way I can nest it right here in the center. Now you should see some things that tell you that you've got it in the right place. So we have our B triangles forming 2 rows, we have our F squares forming that diagonal line, and then we have our C triangles forming that diagonal. So I'm going to go ahead and put these together. We're making 2 of these, so I'm going to go ahead and put both of them together, and I'll come back when it's time to press it out. Okay, there we go. I have sewn both of these together. I am now pressing towards the right half of this block as the instructions say to do. I'm glad I nested those center seams because I feel like I got them spot on. Very happy with that, but there we go. That is our finished step 10. We have 2 of these. I'm going to go ahead and label these as 3A, clue 3A, clue 3A, or what is this, section 3A. Either one of those is a great way to label them. Let's go ahead and set this off to the side and we'll move on to section 3B. All right, moving on to section 3B. For step 1.1, we're going to join a small A triangle to a small C triangle, and we're going to make 2 of them. I went ahead and laid out 2 because it was easier. And then for 1.2, it says we're going to sew a large rectangle of A to the right of a step 1.1. So it's all going to match up. Our A is going to match up with our A fabric just like this. I'm going to go ahead and put these together, and I'll come back when I'm pressing it out. Okay, I've sewn these together, and now I'm going to go ahead and press towards my half square triangle per what the instructions tell us to do. There we go. So we now have 2 that, well, it looks like I need to get Jack out. Hold on, everybody. Let me fix this real quick. Okay, there we go. Got it straightened out. All right, so that's step 1.2 complete. Let's move on to our next instructions, which is 2.1. Okay, moving on to step 2.1 and 2.2. 2.1 says to join a small D triangle to a small A triangle. We're going to make 2 of these. And then for step 2.2, we're going to sew a small A rectangle to the left of step 2.1. So we're going to match up our A fabric just like that. And we're going to make 2 of these in total. I'm going to go ahead and do that, and I'll come back when it's time to press it out. All right, I have sewn both of those together. I'm pressing towards the rectangle of A per the instructions. There we go. All right, we're going to be setting this aside for a moment, moving on to step number 3. All right, moving on to step 3.1, it says to join a small B triangle to a small D triangle. We're going to do that first. And then for 3.2, it says to join a small F rectangle to the left of a step 3.1. So we're going to be adding our F onto the left there. I'm going to go ahead and sew this together, and I'll come back when it's time to press it out. Okay, I've sewn those together, and I am now pressing my F fabric just the same way we did away from the half square triangle. There we go. We've got 2 of those completed. Let's move on to step, what was that, 3? Let's move on to step 4. Okay, moving on to step 4, it says to sew a step 2.2, the top of a 3.2. We're going to make 2 of these because we only have 2, but we'll put them together just like this. Again, our D fabric is going to line up to create this diagonal. I'm going to go ahead and sew these together, and I'll come back when it's time to press it out. All right, I've sewn these together, and now we're pressing towards the top of this, just like this. There we go. All right, so now I have 2 that look like this. Let's move on to step number 5. It looks like we're going to be setting these aside for the moment. All right, moving on to 5.1, it says to sew a small triangle of C to a small triangle of D. We're going to do that 2 times, and then we're going to sew a small D to a small F triangle, just like this. And then for 5.3, we're going to join our left and our right halves together to form this. So it'll go D, C, F, D. I'm going to go ahead and put this together, and I will come back when it's time to press out the final step. Okay, I've sewn those together, and the instructions tell us to press towards our FD half square triangle, so that's what I'm doing. And there we go. It looks like we're setting these off to the side, and we're going to build some more. All right, moving on to step 6.1, it says to sew a small triangle of F to a small triangle of B. We're going to make 2 of those. Then we're going to sew a small B triangle to a small E triangle. We're going to make 2 of those. And then for step 6.3, we're going to put them all together just like this. I'm going to go ahead and sew all this together, and I'll come back when I'm finishing up pressing. Okay, I have sewn those together, and the instructions tell us to press towards our F triangle, so I have done that. Let's move on to step number 7. All right, moving on to step number 7, it says to join a step 5.3 to the top of a 6.3, and we're going to make 2 of these. So here's what it should look like when we're done with it. We have our F on opposite sides of either one, and our, let's see, what is this? This is D fabric on top, B fabric on bottom. So it should look like this whenever you're putting it together. I'm going to go ahead and sew these together, and I'll come back when it's time to press it out. All right, I have sewn all those together, or both of those, I should say, not all of those, but both of those. I've sewn both of those together, and now I'm pressing downwards as the instruction. Did I just press that? No, I pressed it down. Okay, I was worried for a moment that I was pressing it the wrong direction, but everything is fine. We are good. I'm pressing this downwards, which you do have a lot of bulk where the points of those half square triangles are, but that's okay. All right, there we go. That is step 7. Let's move on to step 8. All right, moving on to step 8, it says to join a step 7 to the right of a step 4, and we're going to make 2 of these. So you should have your D fabrics lining up, your B fabrics lining up, and you know you've done it right when you've got that. I'm going to go ahead and sew these together, and I'll come back when it's time to press it out. All right, I've sewn these together, and we are pressing towards the left of our block when we're looking from the front side. So I'm pressing this to the left. There we go. That completes step number 8. Let's move on to step number 9. All right, moving on to step number 9, it says to join a step 1.2 to the bottom of a step 8. We're going to make 2 of these, and it's going to look like this. I'm going to go ahead and sew these together, and I'll come back when it's time to press it out. Okay, I have sewn these together, and we are pressing towards the top of our block, like so. There we go. All right, so I now have 2 of these completed. There we go. Whew, feels like this clue took a long time to put together, not just this one specifically, not just 3B, but both A and B seem like it took a little bit, but there we go. There's 3B. Trying to fit both of these in on camera, but they are big clues, so it's hard to do that. But there we go. Here is our 3A. Here is our 3B. We have completed it, and yeah, there we go. So month 3 is done. We'll see you again next month for month 4.